Hunger makes people brave in ways they shouldn't have to be. Most kids ask for snack money or a warm meal or maybe a helping hand. But this girl, she didn't ask for pity. She didn't even ask for kindness. She only asked for a chance, a single game, one move at a time. Wrapped in an oversized hoodie, shivering, she approached Jason Statham's table with a whisper barely strong enough to stand. "Sir, can I play for food?" Jason looked up, expecting a child desperate enough to gamble anything. But when she touched a pawn, just one, his breath caught in his chest. Because the move she made wasn't random. It wasn't lucky. It was genius. And it was only the beginning of a truth that would shake the entire room. Before we continue, thank you so much for watching and supporting these stories. If you enjoy emotional, real-life inspired tales with powerful twists, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. It truly helps us keep bringing you more stories like this. All right, let's get back to it. Rain always seemed to fall hardest on the people who had the least shelter from it. It drummed against the tall restaurant windows like impatient fingers, blurring the outside world into smears of streetlights and cold pavement. Inside, the soft glow of chandeliers warmed the room, casting gold against polished wood and velvet chairs. It was the kind of place where people whispered about investments and wine pairings, not survival, not hunger. Jason Statham sat alone at a small table near the corner, sleeves rolled up, posture relaxed but alert. He had come here for a quiet evening, no cameras, no noise, just a simple meal after a long day meeting with an old friend. He expected nothing more than a bowl of soup and peace. But peace rarely lasted long in his life. He noticed her before she got close. A small figure outside, drenched from head to toe, standing under the thin awning that barely shielded her from the storm. She looked like she was made of shadows, a thin silhouette in an oversized hoodie, clutching her arms for warmth. At first, he thought she was just trying to escape the cold. Then she lifted her face. Big brown eyes. A smudge of dirt on her cheek. A trembling lip she tried so hard to keep still. She couldn't have been older than 10. Jason felt his stomach knot. He knew that look. He'd grown up seeing it in mirrors. The girl stepped closer to the window, watching the guests through the glass. People laughed over their meals. Forks clinked. The warmth inside felt like a different world entirely, and she didn't belong to it. A waiter approached the door, spotted her and frowned. Jason could read his lips through the glass. "No loitering, move along." The girl didn't argue. She didn't talk back. She simply nodded, hugged herself tighter, and took a step back into the rain. Jason stood immediately. He pushed open the door, letting in a sharp gust of cold wind. The girl flinched but didn't run. She only looked up at him with eyes that were too old for her age. He crouched slightly so he wasn't towering over her. "You all right?" Jason asked gently. She hesitated, then nodded, though her soaked clothes, shaking hands, and pale face said otherwise. "What's your name?" he asked. She swallowed. "Leela." "How long you been out here, Leela?" No answer. Jason softened his voice even more. "You hungry?" Her jaw trembled, a little. It was a lie. Her stomach practically growled in the quiet between them. Jason held the door open. "Come inside, you can sit with me." Panic flashed in her eyes. She stepped back. "No, I can't. The manager will get mad. He already yelled last time." Jason's brows lifted. "Last time?" She nodded, wiping rain from her cheek. "I tried to ask for work, or maybe leftover bread, but he said I wasn't allowed." Jason clenched his jaw. He wasn't angry at her. He was angry at a world that made children beg for scraps. "Listen," he said softly, "you're with me. No one's going to say a word." But Leela shook her head again just as fast. I don't want to cause trouble. I can offer something." Jason blinked. "Offer something?" She nodded firmly now, as if she'd been rehearsing it. "A trade. I can play chess." Jason wasn't sure he heard correctly. "Chess." "I'm good," she said quietly. "Really good. If I win a game, could I have something to eat? Anything, even bread, just something." Her voice cracked on the last word. Jason's chest tightened. She wasn't begging, she was bargaining. Trying to keep dignity where the world kept trying to take it. And that hit him harder than anything else. Leela, he began softly, you don't need to win anything, you can just. I want to earn it, she cut in quickly. She lifted her chin, but her eyes shivered. Please, just give me one chance, one game. Jason exhaled slowly. He didn't know whether to feel heartbroken or impressed. Probably both. You play chess, huh? She nodded. A lot, my dad taught me, before things got bad. Jason didn't push further. He could read the shadows behind those words. He extended a hand. All right, come on then, one game. Leela hesitated again, not from fear, from disbelief. Really? Really? She stared at his hand for a moment, then slowly placed her small, ice-cold fingers into his much larger warm one. They walked inside together. The warmth hit her like a wave. She blinked rapidly, overwhelmed by the smells of roasted garlic, warm bread, sizzling herbs, and something sweet drifting from the kitchen. Her body shook from cold or hunger. Jason couldn't tell. Guests turned to stare. A few whispered. Some wrinkled their noses at the soaked girl, dripping water onto the marble floor. Jason didn't care. He led her to his table. Sit, you're safe here. She sat carefully, like she was afraid the chair wasn't meant for her. Jason flagged a waiter. Hot chocolate, bread basket, soup, whatever is ready fastest. The waiter blinked. Sir, you already ordered. Jason's voice dropped into a quiet authority that could cut steel. That wasn't a request. The waiter hurried away. Leela folded her hands on her lap. I didn't want to cause trouble. You haven't. Jason reached into his coat and pulled out the small walnut and gold travel chess that he carried sometimes on long nights. You said you wanted a game. Leela stared at it like it was a miracle. You have a set. Always, Jason said with a small smile. Helps me think. Leela swallowed, hands already moving instinctively. Jason unfolded the board and set the pieces. The moment her fingers touched the pawns, her entire energy shifted. The trembling slowed, the fear dimmed, her breathing steadied. This wasn't a homeless girl anymore. This was a player. Jason watched her hands move across the board, as if she were touching something sacred. You want white or black? He asked. She looked up at him with the faintest flicker of confidence. White. All right, he said, first move is yours. She glanced at the board just once, and then her hand moved. Not to a pawn. Not to a knight. But to the bishop, sliding it diagonally in a quiet opening Jason hadn't seen from someone her age, ever. It was bold. Calculated. Dangerous. Jason froze. Leela didn't smile, she didn't boast. She simply sat back quietly and whispered, Your move, sir. Jason blinked slowly. He'd played tournaments. He'd played champions. He'd played against computers programmed to destroy human confidence. But this wasn't random. This was pure instinct sharpened by survival. People from nearby tables leaned forward, their conversations fading as curiosity took over. Jason studied her face. Her jaw was firm now. Her posture straightened. Her eyes laser-focused. He wasn't playing a child. He was playing a mind that had lived through things chess boards couldn't contain. All right, Leela, Jason murmured. Let's see where this goes. He moved a knight. Leela's eyes snapped to it instantly, calculating, scanning, predicting. 2 seconds later, she pushed her queen into a position that made the men at the bar gasp. Jason stared. It was a trap. A beautiful one. Hidden in the simplicity of a child's hand. Who taught you that? Jason asked. She hesitated. My dad, before he left. Jason didn't press. He could feel her walls rising. The soup arrived, steaming and fragrant. The bread basket followed, warm cloth protecting golden crusts. But Leela didn't touch them. She didn't break focus, didn't blink, didn't even breathe too deeply. Eat, Jason urged gently. Leela shook her head. Not until I finish earning it. Jason swallowed. His throat tightened. He moved another piece. Leela countered in 3 seconds. Jason leaned back slowly. This girl was extraordinary. A diamond buried in dirt. A mind burning through hunger, cold exhaustion, and still shining. 20 minutes passed. then 30. Jason found himself sweating slightly, concentrating harder than he had in months. Every move he made, she anticipated. Every trap he set, she dodged. Every opening he left, she punished. The crowd behind them grew. Servers paused to watch. Strangers whispered. A little girl soaked, shivering, forgot, was out playing Jason Statham. After almost 40 minutes, Leela paused, eyes fixed on the board. Jason watched her silently, wondering if she was finally slowing down. Then she moved one final piece, small, simple, precise. Check, she whispered. Jason stared at the board. It wasn't check. It was checkmate. A quiet, perfect checkmate with only 5 pieces remaining. The room went silent. Jason exhaled softly and smiled, not from losing but from awe. You win, Leela. She didn't celebrate. She didn't smirk. She just nodded quietly, relief softening her trembling shoulders. Does that mean I can eat now? Jason's heart nearly broke. He pushed the entire bread basket toward her. Eat. She took a piece with shaking hands, tore off a corner, and held it like it was gold. Jason stopped her gently. No, take the whole thing. She blinked. All of it. All of it. Tears filled her eyes. She tried to hide them. She couldn't. As she finally took her first bite, small, slow, hesitant, Jason watched her shoulders collapse with the kind of relief no child should ever feel. He knew now. He knew this wasn't about chess. This wasn't about a game. This was about survival. And Jason Statham wasn't about to let her fight it alone. The first piece of bread disappeared so fast Jason almost didn't see her chew. Leela tried to hide her hunger, taking tiny bites, keeping her eyes lowered, but hunger has a way of revealing itself. Her hands shook each time she brought the bread to her mouth, as if her body wasn't used to eating warm food, as if she feared someone might snatch it away. Jason leaned back quietly, letting her eat without pressure. He didn't want to overwhelm her with questions. He didn't want to scare her. He just watched, and every few seconds he felt his chest tighten. Kids shouldn't look like that. They shouldn't flinch at kindness. They shouldn't ration slices of bread like they were currency. They shouldn't look older than their years, carved by things they never deserved. After a while, Leela paused, glancing toward the kitchen. Is it okay if I have soup too?" she whispered. Jason almost laughed, not at her, but at the heartbreaking innocence of the question. "As much as you want, they're bringing more." She nodded almost shyly and tucked another piece into her hoodie pocket, saving it for later. For later. That single detail stabbed him deeper than anything else. She was storing food like someone who didn't know when her next meal would come. "Leela," he said softly, "how long have you been out here, really?" Her chewing slowed. Her eyes dropped. Her shoulders curled inward. "A while." "How long is a while?" She swallowed. 2 months, maybe 3. Jason inhaled sharply. She couldn't survive 3 months on the streets at her age. Not safely, not without help. "Where's your mom or dad?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then set the bread down and twisted her fingers together. "My dad passed away 2 years ago." Her voice didn't break on "passed away," it broke on "dad." "And your mom?" Jason asked softly. For a moment her eyes hardened, not with anger but with a kind of quiet, resigned grief. "She got sick last winter," Leela whispered. "We didn't have money for doctors. After she died, our landlord said I couldn't stay alone. They wanted to send me to a home." She shook her head. "But I didn't want to go. I don't want to be adopted by strangers. I don't want anyone to replace my mom and dad." Jason's throat tightened. "So you ran?" he asked. She nodded once. "And you've been surviving alone?" "Mostly." She lifted her hoodie sleeve to scratch her arm, and Jason caught sight of bruises, old ones, shaped like fingers. She quickly pulled the sleeve back down, pretending she hadn't noticed. He noticed. "Who did that to you?" he asked quietly. She stiffened. "Nobody." Jason's jaw clenched. He'd spent enough years dealing with criminals to read lies instantly. "Leela." She swallowed, eyes darting anxiously. "It doesn't matter, I got away." From who? She opened her mouth to answer, but suddenly froze. Jason followed her gaze. The restaurant manager was storming toward them, face red with irritation, napkin over his arm. He glared at Leela like she was dirt on his expensive floor. I told you before, he snapped, pointing at her. You're not allowed inside this restaurant. You can't just drag homeless kids in here. Jason stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. Every conversation in the room stopped. Don't finish that sentence, Jason warned quietly. The manager huffed. Sir, this is an upscale establishment we can't have. You can and you will, Jason said. She's my guest. She's not paying. I am. She's soaking wet. And you want her to take her clothes off. Jason's voice dropped into a lethal tone that made the manager wobble back a step. The entire room watched silently. Jason's eyes narrowed. Let me make this simple, he said. If you approach her again with anything less than respect, I won't just leave. I'll make sure everyone knows this restaurant kicks out hungry kids. The manager paled. One of the waiters, the same one who brought the soup earlier, stepped forward. Sir, if it's all right, let me serve them instead. The manager glared at him. The waiter glared right back. Jason nodded once, thank you. The waiter set down a fresh bowl of steaming soup in front of Leela. Here you go, sweetheart, he said gently. Leela blinked at him, surprised by kindness, and whispered, thank you. The manager, thoroughly defeated, walked off stiffly. Jason sat again. Sorry about that, he muttered. It's okay, Leela said quietly. He always yells at me. Jason froze. Always. She nodded. He sees me sometimes outside, when I look for food in the bins. Jason's fists tightened under the table. This is the last time you're eating out of bins, he said firmly. Leela looked up confused. Why? Because you're not staying on the streets anymore, he thought. But he didn't say that yet. Not until he understood her situation fully, and not until he earned her trust. Well, he said carefully, because no kid should have to do that. And because you're smart, Leela, and talented, and your life can be better. Her eyes softened, with hope she clearly hadn't allowed herself to feel in months. But before Jason could ask her another question, someone else approached their table. A man in a blazer. Tall, stern, with silver streaks in his hair and glasses that screamed wealth and importance. Excuse me, sir, the man said. Is that the little girl who played you a few minutes ago? Jason nodded slowly, instantly cautious. The man's eyes widened. I've coached chess for 25 years. I watched the end of your game from the bar. That was unbelievable. Her awareness, her endgame, her board vision, extraordinary. Leela shrank in her seat. The man crouched. Young lady, would you like to come to our academy? We train gifted players. I think you could be. No. Leela said it so quickly, so sharply, that even Jason blinked. The man blinked too. I don't mean any harm. We have scholarships. No, she repeated, voice suddenly trembling. No strangers. I'm not going with anyone. The coach frowned, confused. I didn't mean take you. I meant classes, tournaments. Jason raised a hand subtly, stopping him. He could see her panic building. Thanks, Jason said calmly, but she's had a long night. The coach hesitated, then nodded respectfully. If she ever changes her mind, here. He handed Jason a card. Jason pocketed it. When the coach walked away, Leela's hands were shaking again. Hey, Jason said softly, you're safe. She nodded, but her body stayed tense. Why did you get scared? He asked gently. Leela looked down again. When people say they'll take care of me, they don't mean it, not really. Jason inhaled slowly. He had to be careful. Too much pressure and she'd run. Too little and she'd remain vulnerable. Leela, he said softly, can I ask you one more thing? She nodded. Those bruises, who were you running from? Her lip trembled. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, eyes filling with tears. Jason gently placed his hand palm up on the table. You don't have to be afraid of the truth, not with me. She stared at his hand, not taking it but not pulling away. Finally, she whispered, There's a man, he used to come around where I slept. He grabbed me once, tried to take my bag, I scratched him and ran. Her breath hitched. Now he keeps looking for me. Jason's entire body went cold. Did you tell the police? They don't listen, she whispered. They think I'm lying or that I'm trouble. Jason exhaled slowly, rage simmering under his skin like a slow, controlled burn. Nobody, he said quietly, and I mean nobody gets to hurt you. Leela studied him, wary. You say that now, but everyone leaves eventually. Not me, Jason said simply. She froze. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't make promises he couldn't keep. He didn't tell her everything would magically be okay. But those two words, spoken with quiet certainty, landed deeper than anything else. She didn't believe him yet, not fully, but she wanted to. Jason leaned forward. You said you don't want to be taken by strangers, I get that. I won't force anything on you, but I can help. Food, a warm place tonight, a shower, clean clothes. You don't owe me anything. No game, no trade. She bit her lip. I don't want pity. Jason shook his head. It's not pity, it's caring. And maybe the world hasn't given you much of that, but I'm offering it now. She looked down at her soup. Her shoulders trembled. Then a single tear fell into the bowl. Jason didn't move. He let her cry silently, quietly, the way kids who have been strong too long finally break. After a long moment, she wiped her face and whispered, Okay, just for tonight. Jason nodded once, relief hidden behind calm. But she added, lifting her eyes, After tonight, will you really stay, or will you forget? Jason leaned forward, voice gentle but solid as stone. Leela, I don't walk away from the people I choose to protect. For the first time, her lips lifted, not into a smile, but into something faintly resembling trust. Jason stood. Finish your soup, then we'll get you warm. But just as he reached into his pocket to pay, someone burst into the restaurant, throwing the door open with a bang. Jason turned sharply. Leela's breath hitched. A tall man stood in the doorway. Ragged coat, scruffy beard, one eye swollen, and a deep scratch running across his cheek, the same shape as the marks on Leela's nails. His eyes locked onto her instantly. There you are. Leela went white. Jason stepped between them, so fast the tables shook. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Every conversation in the restaurant died the second that man spoke. There you are. The words slithered across the floor like something rotten. Leela's chair scraped backward on instinct, her small hands flying to the sides of it like she could hold herself in place. Her eyes widened, not in surprise, but in recognition. Jason didn't need anyone to tell him who this man was. Predators have a way of announcing themselves without meaning to. He stepped forward, placing himself directly between the doorway and the table. The movement was calm, unhurried, but his entire body shifted from relaxed diner to something coiled, focused, dangerous in a way that never needed shouting. The man's gaze flicked up, landing on Jason's back. Move, he snarled, she's with me. Jason didn't turn around, not yet. His voice stayed low even. I think she's made it pretty clear she is. The man scoffed. You don't know anything. She ran off with my money. She's a thief. Leela's voice cracked behind Jason. I did, that's not true. Jason heard everything in her tone, the panic, the disgust, the shame that didn't belong to her. The man's lie wasn't meant for Jason. It was meant for everyone watching. Jason turned then. Up close, the man looked even worse, eyes bloodshot, hands twitching, jaw clenching like he was withdrawing from something stronger than alcohol. The scratch across his cheek burned angry red. Even if she did take something, Jason said softly, what exactly were you planning on doing when you found her? The man sneered. That's between me and her, not some wannabe hero. Jason took a step closer. You followed a 10-year-old girl into a restaurant during a storm. That makes it my business. The manager, sensing trouble and maybe smelling liability, hurried over, wringing his hands. Gentlemen, please, we don't want any scenes. Jason didn't look away from the man. Call the police. The manager balked. The police, is that really necessary? Jason's voice hardened just a fraction. You were quick enough to chase her away when she was hungry. Be just as quick to protect her now." The manager swallowed, trapped between his fear of scandal and his fear of the man standing in front of him. Jason's eyes didn't waver. Finally, the manager nodded shakily and scurried off toward the phone. The man laughed low and mocking. "You think the cops scare me? They don't listen to street trash. They listen to people like me, adults. She's nobody." Jason stepped closer. He didn't raise his fists. He didn't shove. He just closed the distance until the man had to tilt his head back slightly to keep eye contact. "Be very careful," Jason murmured, "about the next word you choose to describe her." The man's expression faltered for half a second, just enough for Jason to see it. Cowardice. The bully's kind. The kind that swells when no one stands up and shrinks the moment someone does. "She's nothing but a runaway," the man muttered, volume dropping. "She belongs in a home. They're looking for her." Jason's jaw tightened. "And how do you know that?" The man smirked. "I hear things." Leela's small voice sounded behind Jason. "He doesn't hear anything. He waits near the shelter, watches the kids that get turned away. Then he—" Her throat closed around the rest, eyes filling with tears that had nothing to do with hunger now. Jason didn't need more details. "You've been following kids?" Jason asked. The man shifted, a flicker of aggression returning as he realized he still had an audience. "You don't know what you're talking about. She's lying. She scratched me when I tried to stop her from stealing. Look." He pointed at his cheek like it was proof of innocence. Jason didn't look at the cut. He looked at the man's hands instead, bruised knuckles, dirt under his nails, a tremor that never fully stopped. A lifetime of bad decisions written in skin and bone. "She scratched you because you grabbed her," Jason said calmly. "And right now you're standing in front of half a restaurant full of witnesses who heard you admit it." Murmurs spread through the room. People shifted on their chairs. Some pulled out their phones. The balance of power was shifting and the man could feel it. He lunged a step toward Jason. "Move," he growled. "You don't know who I—" Jason's hand shot out, pressing lightly but firmly against the man's chest. Not enough to shove, just enough to stop him cold. "Don't," Jason said quietly. "Don't make this worse for yourself." The man glared at the hand on his chest, then at Jason's eyes. What he saw there finally gave him pause, not anger, not theatrics, but an unwavering certainty that if he stepped 1 inch further, his choices would have consequences. He looked past Jason at Leela, who was half standing now, clutching her hoodie like armor. "This isn't over, brat," he spat. "You hear me, you?" Jason stepped sideways, fully blocking his view. "It is over," he said, "for you." 2 uniformed officers pushed through the door at that exact moment, rain dripping from their jackets. The manager pointed frantically toward Jason and the man. "There," he squeaked, "there's a disturbance." The first officer took in the scene quickly. The frightened child, the angry man, Jason standing between them, the room full of tense, silent witnesses. "Sir," the officer said to the man, "we're going to need you to step outside." The man barked a humorless laugh. "What for trying to bring a runaway home? She stole from me." "Is that true?" the second officer asked, eyes on Leela. Leela opened her mouth, then looked at Jason, not for permission but for courage. Jason gave her a tiny nod. "Tell the truth, all of it." Her small voice shook, but it stayed steady enough to be heard. "He followed me from the shelter," she whispered. "I was sleeping near the back stairs 2 nights ago. He tried to drag me into his car. I scratched him and ran. He's been looking for me since." A heavy quiet fell over the restaurant. The second officer's jaw clenched. "Is that right, sir?" The man scoffed. "She's lying. She's some random street kid. You're going to take her word over mine." One of the waiters stepped forward, the same one who defended Leela earlier. "I've seen him," the waiter said, voice strong. "Outside more than once, watching near the alleys. I just thought he was waiting for someone, but I saw him grab her arm last week when she came by the dumpster. She pulled away and ran. I should have done something." His voice cracked on that last part. Jason glanced at him with a hint of respect. "You're doing something now," Jason said quietly. The officers exchanged a brief look. "Sir," the first officer said to the man, "you're coming with us. We'll sort it out at the station." "For what?" the man demanded. "Questioning, possibly attempted abduction, and trespassing if the manager wants to press charges. I didn't. Now, the officer said. This time when they stepped toward him, he didn't lunge. His bravado drained as realization finally punched through his arrogance. The handcuffs clicked. The man glared over his shoulder at Leela as they guided him out. You think this changes anything? He hissed. Jason took a slow step forward, just enough for their eyes to meet one last time. It changes everything, he said calmly. The door closed behind them. Rain swallowed the rest. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the restaurant breathed out. Chairs shifted, people murmured. Someone clapped once, then stopped, uncertain if it was appropriate. Leela sank down in her seat, shoulders shaking now that the danger had passed, and adrenaline began to drop. Jason sat beside her instead of across, giving her space but not distance. You did good, he said softly. I was scared, she whispered. Being scared and running away is bravery, he replied. Staying would have been worse. She sniffed. The police, they actually listened this time. Jason nodded. Sometimes it takes witnesses. Sometimes it takes someone standing next to you. She looked at him, eyes red. Will he come back? No, Jason said simply. He won't be bothering you again. He didn't explain the legalities, the report the officers would file, the card he'd quietly slipped one of them, his personal number, the one that opened doors in places most people never saw. Leela didn't need those details right now. She needed one thing. Safety. Finish your soup, he said gently. Then we're getting you somewhere warm and clean and safe. Leela stared at the bowl, then at him. You mean it? You're not just saying it to make me feel better. Jason's gaze didn't waver. Have I lied to you yet? She shook her head slowly. Then trust me on this, he said. She picked up the spoon again. This time, she didn't eat like she was afraid someone would take it away. She ate slowly, thoughtfully, like she was trying to convince herself that the world wasn't entirely cruel. By the time she finished, the restaurant had mostly returned to normal. People pretended to resume their meals, but several of them kept glancing over, their expressions complicated, shame, respect, curiosity mingling in subtle ways. As Jason stood to settle the bill, the chess coach from earlier approached again, hat in hand. I'm sorry about before, the coach said quietly. I didn't realize she'd been through all that. Jason nodded. Neither did I. The coach glanced at Leela. I meant what I said. She's gifted, if there's any way I can help. Jason studied him for a moment. Do you run background checks on everyone who works with your students? He asked. The coach blinked. Of course, thorough ones. Why? Because this kid has already had too many strangers make promises they didn't keep. I'm not handing her to anyone I don't trust. The coach nodded slowly. Then don't trust me yet. Come and see everything first. Talk to the kids, talk to the parents, watch the classes, then decide. Jason liked that answer. He looked at Leela. What do you think? She bit her lip. I don't know, I like chess, but I don't like leaving with strange people. Jason's voice softened. You won't leave with anyone you don't choose, and you won't go anywhere alone. If you ever decide to see this place, I'll go with you. We take it at your pace. Deal. She considered that. Finally, she gave a small nod. Maybe, not today, but maybe. The coach smiled gently. That's all I can ask. I'll leave my card with you both. No pressure. He hesitated. And for what it's worth, you played a beautiful game tonight, Leela. Her cheeks flushed a soft pink. Thank you. When he left, Jason paid the bill, including a quiet, substantial tip for the waiter who had stepped up when it counted. Outside, the storm had weakened to a fine mist. The city glowed under pooled streetlight reflections, everything shiny and slick. Jason opened his umbrella and held it above Leela as they walked toward his car. She kept glancing around, every sound making her flinch. Survival habits didn't disappear just because one threat did. You have anyone you trust? Jason asked as they walked. A teacher, neighbor, someone from before. She shook her head. Not really. What about school? I stopped going when Mom got sick, she said quietly. Then we moved around a lot. It was hard, and after she died, I just stopped going at all. Jason felt the weight of that, the years she'd lost, the pieces of childhood she wasn't getting back. He made a decision right there, somewhere between the restaurant doorway and the driver's side door. He opened the backseat for her. "Hop in." She hesitated. "Where are we going?" "First, a hotel," Jason said. "One with a hot shower and a bed that doesn't smell like a dumpster. Then tomorrow we'll talk to some people I know, social workers I trust, not the ones who shuffle kids like paperwork. We'll make a plan, together." Her eyes widened. "A hotel, won't they be mad?" "They'll be fine," Jason said, a hint of amusement in his tone. "I've stayed there before." "Is it fancy?" she asked. "Sort of," he admitted. She chewed her lip. I don't have other clothes." "We'll take care of that too." Silence. Then very quietly, "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You don't know me." Jason leaned against the car for a moment, thinking. "Because someone should have done it for me when I was your age," he said. She blinked, surprised. "I didn't grow up like the people in that restaurant," he continued. "I know what it's like to feel invisible, to feel like hunger and fear are just normal." He met her gaze. "I can't fix everything," he said, "but I can fix this, right now for you." She swallowed. "And later, when I'm not so sad and messy and scared." He gave a small, almost tired smile. "Later we see who you want to be, a student, a chess player, something else. You don't have to decide tonight." She hesitated, then climbed into the car. As they pulled away from the restaurant, she pressed her face lightly to the window, watching the building shrink behind them. She didn't look back with longing. She looked back with something like relief. "Jason," she said softly after a while. "Yeah. Do you think I could ever be good enough to play in a real tournament?" He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were hopeful now, not just fearful. "You're already good enough," he said. "What you need isn't skill, it's chances." She thought about that, tracing a pattern on the fogged glass with her fingertip. "Do people like me get chances?" she asked. "They do when people like me stop walking past them," Jason answered quietly. She was silent for a long moment after that. By the time they reached the hotel, she had fallen asleep, curled up in the seat, hoodie pulled halfway over her face, one hand still clutching the crust of bread she'd saved. Jason turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, just looking at her. A kid. Alone. Brilliant. Exhausted. He carefully slid out, opened her door and scooped her up with practiced gentleness, supporting her head against his shoulder. She stirred, mumbling something about pawns and queens in a dream, then settled again. The hotel lobby staff stared, but no one asked questions when they saw Jason's expression. He checked in quickly, carrying her all the way to the room. Only when he laid her on the bed and stepped back did it really hit him. Tonight, one chess game had changed the trajectory of a life. Not because a homeless girl beat a famous actor, but because a hungry child had the courage to walk up to a stranger and say, "Sir, can I play for food?" Jason turned off the main light, leaving only the soft glow of a bedside lamp. Leela slept deeply now, breathing evening out at last. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number from memory, a woman he knew who worked tirelessly in a child advocacy group. When she answered, groggy but alert, he said, "Hey, sorry it's late. I've got a kid here who needs us. Smart, alone, fallen through every crack there is. We're not letting her fall through one more." There was no hesitation on the other end. "Text me the address," the woman said. "I'll be there in the morning." Jason hung up, exhaled, and looked at the chessboard he'd set on the small table by the window. He replayed the final position from memory, Leela's last move shining like a small, perfect victory in the middle of a messy, painful life. He let himself smile. "Good move, kid," he murmured. Outside, the storm finally dissolved into a quiet drizzle. Inside, for the first time in a long time, Leela slept without flinching at every sound. And Jason, sitting in a chair by the window, kept watch, not as a hero, not as a savior, but as something far more important. Someone who refused to look away. Because sometimes all it takes to change a life is one person who sees you. One person who stays. And one small voice brave enough to say, "Sir, can I play for food?" That night, a homeless girl's brilliant chess move had stunned a restaurant. But what mattered more wasn't how she moved her pieces on the board. It was how, with one trembling step forward, she moved her life off the streets and onto a new path she hadn't dared to imagine. Jason closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing. Tomorrow would be complicated. There would be paperwork, courts, conversations, decisions that couldn't be rushed. But tonight was simple. She was safe. And for now, that was enough.